what is the trigger for investment money come to here? How do we which stock, which sector, what we should buy? Is there any idea or advice to people?はい、皆さんこんにちは。フィリピンアセットコンサルティングの家村です。今日ですね、こちらですね、AB キャピタル証券にね、お邪魔しています。フィリピンのマニラのね、ボニファシオグローバルティ BGC というね、マニラの本当中心地にあるね、オフィス、素晴らしいオフィスに伺っておりまして、今日はですね、この AB キャピタル証券の、オーナーであり、社長のですね、アントンさんにお迎えしておりますので、アントンさんにいろいろですね、このフィリピンの株式のね、魅力だとかですね、特徴、そういったことをね、お聞きしたいなと思っております。アントンさん、Thank you for joining our
My pleasure.
video.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much
Yes.
for your time in your busy,
My pleasure.
busy,
And good afternoon to all of your customers.
Yeah, please, our audience, most of our audience is investor, business person, so they are really interested in investment. So I want you to hear from you about the attractiveness of Philippine market and the characteristic of Philippine stock, like that. Before going into this talking, I want you to introduce yourself.
Myself.
You.
Well, I am the chairman and CEO of AB Capital and Investment Corporation. We are an investment bank, a fund manager, and a stockbroker. AB Capital is a very old company, more than 50 years old. At one time, it was partly owned by Bankers Trust. We took over the company almost 3 years ago, and we are now one of the leading players in the industry in both fund management and stockbroking. I personally have been involved in the markets for over 30 years, and I worked 10 of those years in London. I was working for Deutsche Bank, and the rest of it here, both as an analyst, financial analyst, and now an entrepreneur, if you like. So that's my background.
So you have experience in London for 10 years?
Yes.
Okay. Then you came back
Then
to
I came
Philippines.
back. Yes.
Okay. So before starting AB Capital business, what did you do in Philippines?
Philippines, I was an economist for 5 years, and then I left to do graduate studies, both in University of Oxford. And I did an MBA in the US, University of Virginia. And then I moved first to Hong Kong, Singapore, eventually London, where I raised my family. And I moved back to the Philippines about 20 years ago, where I started a joint venture with Deutsche Bank to create a securities firm here. And then I retired, sat on a few company boards, started managing money, and eventually I bought AB Capital to be able to formalize my money management business, if you like.
I see. So you know the market, not only Philippines, US,
yes.
Europe,
well,
around the world.
In London, I was head of the Asia ex-Japan desk. So I used to cover Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines.
I see. The AB Capital provide the line-up service of as a security broker. So you have many individual investor and also institutional.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
Actually, there are many Japanese clients in AB Capital. Is there any advantage for Japanese people to use AB Capital to open an account in AB Capital?
Yes. Well, for one, we are. There are a lot of stockbrokers in the Philippines. At least 100.
100. Okay.
19 have online trading platforms. So we are one of only 19. And I believe we're the only one that has a Japanese interface.
Japanese interface.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm using your platform, Japanese.
yes. So we're very friendly to Japanese investors. We've had them for a long time. We value them obviously. So that is our advantage. Apart from the Japanese friendly interface, we have the experience in dealing with Japanese clients.
So anybody Japanese can easily open account of every capital.
That's correct.
Through online.
Yes.
They don't need to come here to sign document.
No need, but most of them, I think, like to come here.
I like to come here, but not necessarily.
Not necessary.
I see. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to hear about the Philippine stock market from now.
Okay.
So, what is the attraction of investment in Philippines?
Yes. Well, I guess the main attraction for investing in the Philippines is that it's a growing economy.
Growing economy.
For the last 10 years or more, excluding the pandemic years, our economy has been growing 6% a year. It's one of the highest in Southeast Asia, faster than China today. And that growth is sustainable because our population is very young. Right? The median age of Filipino is about 25 years old.
It's half of Japan.
And Europe as well. So there's a lot of young people that are entering the labor force as opposed to leaving the labor force. So people are just about to enter, to start working, to start earning, and to start spending. Many of these people do not yet have credit cards, do not yet have insurance, do not yet have their own cars. So you have many first-time buyers for everything. And of course, they do not yet have their own property. They still live with their parents. So you can see structurally, it's a market that has got a lot of consumer-led growth.
Consumer-led growth. Okay, I see.
This is the opposite of countries where the population is aging, and you rely on hopefully tourism or exports. The Philippines does not export a lot, but it doesn't need to as much as Japan or Singapore because the domestic market grows every year. So that's the first attraction. It's a growing market and the growth is sustainable. The second attraction is that it's cheap. Not only physically cheap. A lot of Japanese, Koreans come here to play golf because it's cheap, but stocks are cheap. The stock market here, ever since interest rates have risen, has been falling every year. The last 4 or 5 years, stock prices have been falling, but during that period, earnings have been rising.
Earnings
have been rising.
Okay.
Company earnings.
Company earnings.
Right?
Company earnings.
But
stock market
falling, but company earnings rising. So PE is very, very low.
Earnings per share also.
So the PE now of an average PE ratio, price to earnings ratio of average Philippine company now is only about 11 times.
11 times.
11 times.
Comparing,
earnings.
For example, US 20 or
US is way over 20 already.
Even Japan is 17, 18 or something like that.
But I mean, what we're saying in a nutshell is that the US, Japan, these markets have already been running hard And at some point, the way money flows, once those markets get fully priced, they rotate. They rotate to markets that are not yet fully priced. Okay, the Philippines is a small market, so it will not be the first that will be in the rotation line. They will go. The money moves to, the bigger emerging markets, but eventually it will come here. Right. Okay. Now, the price to earnings ratio of 11 times is close to the historic low.
Oh, historic low?
Yeah. In the last 30 years, market PE averages a low of 10 times earnings, high of well over 20 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
when that kind of 20 times happened?
In bull markets, for instance, because I said 30 years, right?
30 years.
So the mid-90s, before Asian crash, the market was on like as high as 29 times earnings.
29 times.
Yeah, and maybe 2000, between 2000, around mid 2014, 15, 16, was trading at maybe 22, 23 times earnings.
Oh, really?
Right. But so you have this long period of prices doing nothing or falling and earnings per share rising.
Oh, yeah.
So now the market price to earnings ratio is on 11 times.
Okay.
So during the worst times, we go to 10 times earnings. Now we're at 11. So downside is limited.
Oh, I see. Only one.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so that's the first reason. There's growth. Second reason, market is cheap. The third reason is the market is very under-owned. What you call under-owned. Pre-COVID, 2018-19, foreign investors own almost 30% of the total market.
Okay.
Today, that number is closer to 20.
20. Okay.
That
10%
means
down.
a lot of foreigners have already sold, right? And this is a good thing because you want to get in before the foreigners come back, right? You don't want to get in when they're already in. Stocks will be expensive by then. You want to come in early. So it's under-owned by foreigners. It's under owned by local retail. On a good day, retail here can reach 30% of market turnover. I think now that number is less than 10. So even local retail investors are not in the market. They're in crypto or something else that's moving.
Retail investment means the individual.
Yes,
person.
Retail is individual investors.
Okay, I see.
Hitoshi was telling me earlier that pre-COVID, only 10% of Japanese have stock market accounts.
Yeah.
Here the number is 2%.
2%.
Only 2%. But like I said, average age of population here is only 25. As they grow older, they will learn to invest as they accumulate savings. Okay, so those are three reasons. First, there's growth. Second, the market's cheap.
Sure.
Third, it's under-owned. And maybe the fourth and final reason is that interest rates have peaked and are about to come down. And why is this important? This is important because you could really see in the middle of 2022, when the interest rate here was 2%, it rose to 6.5%.
6.5. Now.
That's where it is today, 6.5 in the interest rate hiking cycle. And you could really see how the money moved from stocks into time deposits and fixed income instruments.
Because of the interest rate.
Yes, because it's attractive. Even
sure.
time deposits here, you get 6%. So the money is all there.
Money go to the fixed. Yeah.
Now, when that reverses and interest rates start falling back to normal rates,
I see.
it will reverse.
Oh, okay.
It'll move back into equities because
I see.
versus inflation, at some point, time deposits will no longer be attractive once they start cutting. So that's, in summary, those are the four reasons. This is a market where there is long-term growth, sustainable growth. Second, it's a market that is cheap. It's close to its historic lows. Third, it's under-owned. The foreigners have left. They have not yet come back. And finally, the interest rate cycle is about to turn. And therefore, we expect the money to move back into equities at some point, maybe next year. You'll start seeing it come.
Oh, okay. Oh, very understandable.
So, those are the reasons in a nutshell why I think it's a good time to be in Philippine stocks.
What do you think about? How do you think about foreign investors' money? What is the trigger for investment money come to here?
The trigger first, like I said, interest rates have to stop rising. They've already stopped, so they have to start falling.
Start to decline.
Okay, because when interest rates are low, people like to take risks, right? Risk appetite improves, and when interest rates are high, people are cautious. They stick to just the blue chip markets like the US. But later, when interest rates are low, it's like junk bonds, right? You only go into junk bonds when people feel like taking risks.
Taking risks.
So in Philippines, it's almost like a junk bond, right? Like a low-grade bond. And when risk appetites return, that's when they start investing. But I mentioned earlier, the trigger really will be, you're at a point where everybody's already made money in the US. You know, the US Magnificent Seven tech stocks, very expensive already. Everybody's in AI, even crypto. People have already made money. Japan has been a fantastic market, and people have made money there. It's no longer as cheap as it was 1 year ago. So at some point, the money has to rotate. And it starts looking for bargains. Right?
I see.
So it's like if you look at, I'm sure even in Japan, the first stocks to move in a bull market are the big blue chip stocks. And then when they have become fully priced, the rally spreads to mid caps.
Mid-cap.
Right? And when the mid caps get fully priced, it goes to third liner stocks. Right? So the money has to rotate.
The rotation of the money.
Yeah.
I see.
So in terms of the global picture, Philippines being a small market, it's like a third line. So you have to see the US run first, right? The big markets. Then you have to see India run, the big emerging markets, right? Then at some point, it rotates into the smaller emerging markets like Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines.
I see. Okay, very understood. So we understand the attractiveness of Philippine stock. So okay, let's start Philippine stock investment. How do we which stock, which sector, what we should buy? Is there any idea or advice to people?
Well, there is of course the option of just buying the index. Right? Just like you can buy an index fund, tracker fund on S&P 500. I'm sure you can do the same in Japan. You can also do the same here. You can buy the Metrobank ETF. Which is listed in the stock. If you don't want to pick stocks, you just buy the index. If you want to be directly exposed into stocks, but you don't want to hold too many, you just buy the stock of a big conglomerate.
Conglomerate.
Right.
Could you explain more
a
about
big one.
conglomerate?
It's like a, what is it? A Zaibatsu?
Zaibatsu, yeah.
It's like a Zaibatsu.
Yeah, Zaibatsu. Yeah, okay.
It's like a Zaibatsu because they have exposure to a broad segment of the economy. So there are two big Zaibatsus here, if you like. There's SM and Ayala Corporation. And there are other conglomerates like Aboitiz Equity Ventures, JG Summit, for instance. So those are, if you don't want to pick, to have to study too hard, you just buy a big conglomerate. Another way to play it is you buy something that will benefit from the overall growth of the market, typically a bank. So you could buy, the biggest bank here is Banco de Oro, and then you have Bank of the Philippine Islands, and you have Metrobank. And if you have the patience to read research, you will find some of the smaller banks are actually cheaper, but you have to read a little bit, do a little bit more work. Typically, they also like to say the sharpest play on falling interest rates is property. Right? They say property. But at this stage of the game, I would be more, I would feel more confident on the bigger property companies, not the small ones yet, because we don't know how many of them, what their cash flow looks like versus their debt. Right? Whereas the big ones are SM Prime or Ayala Land, very safe. And then, of course, there are consumer companies. If you're a long-term investor, some people would just like to buy consumer companies. You know, these are the companies that produce branded food. Snacks. Dressed chicken.
I see.
Things, biscuits, juice. So there are companies like URC, Mondenisi. So we have more than, we're a small market, but we have more than 300 listed companies. If you attend some of the weekly sessions hosted by Hitoshi, we come up with the ideas on individual stocks that you can learn about.
Very interesting. Okay. Finally, the Philippine market looks really attractive. At the same time, there are, Southeast Asia is also growth market, and India. So what is the difference or strengths or attractiveness Philippine market comparing with
Southeast Asia?
Yeah.
Well, compared to the rest of Southeast Asia, we have the highest growth rate. Maybe next to Vietnam, right? But I think personally, I've looked a little bit at Vietnam. I think we have more interesting companies that are listed than in Vietnam. Also, there is the issue of value. I think only Thailand is cheaper than Philippines. Thailand is on 10 times earnings.
I see.
We are on 11. I think Indonesia is on 14 times earnings. So if you try and put together growth prospects plus value, the Philippines is reasonably attractive. And the other plus here is in case you decide you want to visit the country that you are investing in. The Philippines is a nice place to visit compared to some of these other countries. We all speak English, and Filipinos typically like Japanese. And you get, I'm sure, Japanese food here much cheaper than in Japan.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. Finally, could you give our audience something final message?
Final message. Well, I will just outline, like I said, there are 4 reasons you want to invest in Philippine stocks today. First, good growth prospects that are sustainable. 2, value. The market is cheap. 3, it's under-owned. The foreigners are not yet back, and they will come back. And then 4th, finally, interest rate cycle is about to turn, and with that, money will flow back into equities. So I'd like to thank you for listening and thank you for hosting, Hitoshi, and I hope together we all make lots of money investing in the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Anton.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
My
time.
pleasure.
ということで今日はですね、フィリピンの株式市場の魅力皆さんにね、十分伝わったかと思います。またなんかね、ご質問とかあったらね、またお問い合わせください。Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.